I am on my way to a memorial for Sue Thomas. Now I know I've done this video before, but this is an official one with her family, and if I can I'm going to try and film a little bit, but I'm not going to be there in the capacity to film. I'm going to be there as a guest. It's a bit of a grey day, it might rain, so I've got a brolly with me. I'm also bringing along the offering that was intended for the memorial later this year, but I don't think that's going to happen, which, if you don't know, was part of a sculpture trail at Bechleiniog on Anglesey. And because I don't think that's going to happen, I think it's more fitting to offer it, today, along with a small table that was made by Peter Williams, who will be there. So I think those two things will be quite nice. So yeah, that's what's going on. For most of this challenge, I've been using oil pastels to make portraits, and I was curious how well they would work for still life studies, and this piece is going to be exactly that. Part of the memorial was the flowers in the windows of the church where the service was held, and I went around and photographed them all, and there were flowers on the at the front where people stood. I don't know the exact words for these areas of a church, but at the front of the church where there was a harp player making lovely music, and then family members and friends would go up and do speeches. There was flowers in a bottle, and I decided to try to depict those in oil pastels if I could. They were really nice arrangements, all of them. Some of them were backlit, so I'm going to struggle to make decent images of them if I want to recreate them for the challenge. So this bottle was, as I said, they weren't in the window. They were at the front of the church where the organ and things would be. Not the organ, I don't know. Where the speeches would be made, the sermons or whatever you call it. So that's why these weren't backlit. They were fairly well lit. It was a very touching service, and I was surprised to learn how much I had in common with Sue Thomas, and I wish I would have spoken to her more about her background. I suppose it doesn't really occur to you to ask people questions about where they went to school and where they grew up, because it seems as though you're trying to get at something, and I wouldn't have been inclined to take that direction of question for someone who I was trying to get to know, unless it was just her and I necessarily in some, working on some project, which it was never the case. So yeah, unfortunate that I didn't get to speak to her about that. But there we are. It was nice to be able to get to know Sue to the extent that I did, which is only briefly, but I very much appreciated the interactions that I had with her. And I had every intention when I started this challenge to base every submission on an inspiration from the day, but that was too difficult because some days would be really busy and I wouldn't have that much time, and other days wouldn't be busy at all, and so I wouldn't have anything to base images off necessarily. So that's why I had to just use a lot of inspiration from different places and try to create my own themes for each submission. I think the concept early on was quite different to how it turned out when the challenge got going and picked up a bit of momentum. It was just that I was able to find good sources for images and try to create a folder full of different ideas of what I'd like to make drawings or paintings of, with the hopes of making more paintings than drawings. But again, it's time sensitive, not only in the fact of trying to create something in a day, but also trying to do other things with your day and then fit in making a piece of art. It can be very tricky. I did enjoy picking through this, trying to get the different textures. So the little bits on the left hand side there, I was making little dash marks for, broke up. You can see me doing the same thing again there. Breaks up these long stems for flowers, which is nice. And then initially when I started drawing the bottom part, I thought, I've gone too heavy on the line, but it was blades of grass by the looks of it, so it was thicker than the stems of flowers. And then these little dash marks for whatever the plant is or whatever it's called, make it a nice small bouquet of flowers. And as much as I wish I could have had varying greens for the stems, I'm sure it would have looked more accurate if I would have had different greens. In fact, this may be exactly that. It looks like I have got a different green, so I spoke too soon. But I mostly did them with one green. I think I have to be careful which green I use, because sometimes some are more blue than others. And for this I wanted it to be somewhat accurate, even though I always say that tonal values are more important than colour accuracy. However, when it comes to colour, as much as accuracy isn't as important as tonal values, the colour composition is still important. So if I would have only used cool colours, so greens, blues, and maybe the grey is quite a cool grey, and things like that, instead of introducing this orange, which is obviously a warm colour, it wouldn't have had the same impact as it will when you introduce this. Now obviously this isn't a creative choice, this is what the flowers were, they were orange. But if you are playing with the colours of a piece, it's worth noting that you can make those creative decisions when you know that the complementary colours would be a good idea to play with. If something isn't warm, if it's majority cool and you introduce a warm colour but it's tonally balanced and true, then you can introduce colours that aren't actually represented in the source material. So if there weren't a red and you were using greens, you could introduce a red or a pink, so long as it didn't clash with the tonal values of the piece. It didn't create uncomfortable vibrations, which is known to happen with red and green, so it is a delicate balance. I like the little light purple touches in the top right. I think that's quite pleasant. And then, as you can see, I'm just working on a shadow at the bottom, and I think the bottle is quite nice, but yeah, a couple of touches there. You can see that it's a bottle, it has a different texture to the other. I'm just trying to find an edge of the black, I think, at the moment, to make a strategic mark. Try to heighten the contrast on the bottle. I think that's what it's all about, to show glass. It's the contrast between light and dark, and the different luminosity of the light coming through the glass. But I think that's quite a pleasant still life. Not to credit my own work too much, but I do think that compared to my portraiture, I think that was quite a nice study, and I'm glad that instead of constantly doing faces, I tried this out, and I'm hoping to be able to use oil pastels in different, more creative ways, as well as portraiture. But I will continue with the portraits, as I do like those a lot. But there we are. This is a nice bottle of flowers, a nice bouquet from the chapel, and I'm going to show you the different photographs that I took from inside, because I found those quite interesting as well. But here is my submission for today, and yeah, try it out for yourself. If you have oil pastels and you're curious about the boundaries or the restrictions of where they do and don't work, then try things out for yourself. I've had varying degrees of success depending on what the subject is. With portraiture, I've almost always, in fact I'm pretty much always satisfied with the results. And with still life, this was my first attempt and I thought it was very nice. My second attempt didn't go very well, and I might show that on another video. And I also did try to do what was it, landscape, and that didn't go very well. But I do think that these are really I was going to say powerful, it's not really the word, I mean very an expressive medium for different subjects. And I think that still life that maybe isn't flowers could be good as well, you know, say fruit or vases or something like that, because I think they can describe contours and light and shadow very well. And the only limitations that I've found is when things are really fiddly and I try to add a background is where I struggle. So it's possible that that it's just the backgrounds which I struggle with, and possibly they're just good for the foreground, but that could just be my limitations. So I'll have to work on that and see where I get to. But just adding a couple of dark edges here so far to the different parts of the leaves and the stems, touches of yellow. I don't want to go too far, but I want to make sure that it has enough highlights in the right areas to make it look fresh, and it had a kind of springy look to it when it was on the in the church when I saw it. And it's got a nice, it looks like a blue shadow that I've done at the bottom there. I'm not sure if that is the case. I'm just going to get rid of the flakes and crumbs off the surface, which accumulate whilst you're scrubbing down all of the different layers. Very different to the blending that I use for portraiture. But there it is. That's my still life of flowers for Sue's memorial.